welcome to Cyber Therapy, your bi-weekly entertainment, I suppose. My name is Ashley Lee. I am the Senior Manager of Community and Customer Marketing here at Jupiter One, and here's my lovely host, Tony Ramirez.
Hello. How's it going, Ashley?
Woo! Wonderful. I'm feeling. If I'm introducing myself differently today, it's only because I'm on the back of a really big event that we just ran yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and it was our virtual customer summit. And it
Mm-hmm.
was amazing. It was a lot of fun.
It
It
was.
was also very stressful, and I will tell you right now that I am probably not the best at managing my stress,
No, you're not.
considering. Well, thank you, friend. Appreciate you
I can
totally lifting
reassure
me up
you in
there.
that.
So yes, today it's just gonna be Tony and I. We're gonna be chatting through some topics, mainly stress management, hobbies, some books that we would recommend or want to read, and a follow up on our talks about personality and strengths finding tests. So with that, um, stress management. Yes, it's one of those things that will be very helpful for everybody. Um, I think one of the questions that I asked in our company Slack, we have like a random channel, or well, we have a water cooler channel,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the questions was fill in the blank for this quote. What is your favorite blank? And I decided to type in what is your favorite method of de-stressing. And so everybody kind of piled in, and they all have their own ways of de-stressing. We've got musicians
Mm-hmm.
like yourself. We've got people who like being in the outdoors with their pets or without pets. And then you got people who like me who are like, yeah, I don't know. I just like to curl up in a ball and sit on the couch and read a book. So,
Yeah, and
Tony,
let
what
me
do you
say,
do?
I mean I do a lot of things. I think I've told you my interests ebb and flow. I'm, not always focused on one thing, but I will have one thing I'm focused on for a brief period of time, and then I'll move on to the next. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I did make a joke. Ashley's bad at dealing with stress. Actually, Ashley's very good at dealing with knowing when she's going to be stressed and how to de-stress. And that in itself, I think, is one of the first skills of like dealing with stress is knowing when you're stressed. I don't think a lot of
This is
people
true.
can articulate that, and I think you do a really great job at it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was because last night I had a migraine, a self-induced migraine, stress-induced migraine. And I was like looking up the different symptoms and whatnot. And apparently, like for some people, some of those symptoms are like building over days with like being irritable or like having like chills, right? Without having like a fever or
Mm.
anything like that. So there's like bodily warnings that something's happening, which I will say is definitely helpful in being able to recognize, oh, yes, I am stressed right now. I probably need to do something to take care of that or write it out, right? Because sometimes the moment you gotta write it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I don't know. What's helped you be more self aware, Tony?
Yeah, it's funny. I think you're either aware that you're stressed, you know what those triggers are for stress. For me, I think it's that feeling of being overwhelmed. I think I get that sometimes. And then, there's always the like, oh, what should I do about this? And there are the moments where you just want to lay down, walk away from the problem, do something else. And I will say, like, I think that for me, that's always been like one of the healthy things to do is to
Yep.
just go on a walk, come back to it, and do that. The other thing is, I like to call you. That is one of the things I do all the time. I will call you when I'm stressed and express my stress in a bunch of words, and then say and go on random tyrants and say like talk about things that have nothing to do with my
Yes.
problem. But that
Y-
is one
It's
of the things I
similar to
do.
what we talked about 2 episodes ago, where you like to
Hmm.
take this journey of
Hmm.
like all the things that are surrounding and connected to the core thing. And then eventually we get to the
Yes.
core thing. So,
Hmm.
well,
But for
thanks. I'm
you.
glad that I can be that person for
Hmm.
you, Tony, to talk and vent and release the stress. And then
Hmm.
do it because you are a problem solver at heart. So,
And I will say this: you are the opposite of me. You are the like hide under the blanket, get a
yes,
book, or put on some movie and go
yes.
to like I guess like go into goblin mode and just hide underneath. Like that is who you become. You go
This
into
is true.
Goblin Ashley mode.
Yes, I become a hermit just so I
Hmm.
can process. I need to process enough to a point
Hmm.
where then I can then verbally process. Like I feel most of my processing happens quietly, whether it's through journaling or
Hmm.
listening to music or just like not talking to anybody and having like some quiet space. Um, but will also say the other part of it is being able to externally verbally process through the stress, which has been helpful. And so I know you and I have had many conversations. I'm not going to lie. When you do call me to go on a tirade about something,
Hmm.
half the time I'm usually in right there with you with some frustrations, right? Like
Yes.
similar experiences and whatnot. And so I guess the tip here that you're probably telling people in not so many words is find your tribe. When you are stressed, it is helpful to have people that you can talk to or talk at as a sounding
Hmm.
board, right? But part
Hmm.
of it is being able to figure out how you manage that stress too,
Yes,
right? When you
somebody
have
needs to
too
take
much.
that like love language test, and turn it into like a stress language test. What
I
is your
wonder if
stress
there's something
language?
out there.
Hmm.
I know there's an apology test, like the different types of apologies. Like, when somebody like really wrongs you, like what form of apology are you really looking for? Is it just acknowledging that they did something wrong? Is
Hmm.
it like retribution of what they're going to fix? Or there's like five different like ways. Or like, is it like showing through like either like what acts of service or gifts or something that they are sincerely remorseful and sorry? Um, that one, side note, is just an interesting test to take because then you're able to pick up why you still feel unresolved, even though somebody may have said sorry to you for doing something wrong.
Hmm.
So, side note
Yeah.
for next time. Next time we'll talk
Next
about that.
time, let's talk about apologizing. And hopefully, we will find out if there is a actual like stress
Stress.
matrix, because I'm sure
Yes.
there is one. I'm sure somebody has come up with like there's physical, mental, like all these other types of
Emotional.
stress, and then
Yes.
how you deal with those types. This is all these ranges, and I think that's what you really want to talk about are those hobbies, those things. I know.
Yes. You said that you like to go outside for a walk. But as we know, you are in Chicago and it is not always sunny
I don't know
in
what you mean. It's
Chicago.
54 degrees today. It's great. I went out.
Well, that's
It's
nice.
beautiful.
That's
Only a
kind of
few
weird.
days ago, it was in the 30s.
Oh,
But we've had a
I thought
really
it's supposed to
nice.
be miserable this time of year.
This has been an unseasonably nice winter. Um, as if you look up the weather trends, tangent,
Uh-huh.
we've had less snow than we've had in previous years, which
Interesting.
basically means that I rented a garage for the first year of my car's existence in the where I've
For
lived
no reason?
for pretty much no reason. It was like kind of a letdown in a way, but
Well, you never know. It's a what La Nina year for you. Maybe next year it'll dump a lot because I will say the opposite has been for us. Like last
mhm,
year it was abnormally dry. It's usually dry in Colorado. The snow doesn't really stick, but it was like we did not get a lot of snowfall last year. Whereas this year we have gotten dumped on so much. This is the first time I've ever had to experience negative Fahrenheit weather, which was definitely a trip that I just sipped my coffee while I looked outside. So, it was so uh, back to my question. Sorry for the tangent.
you can't always walk in Chicago. You're right. You hit
Correct.
it on the
Yes.
nail. You can't always walk. So what do I do when I'm not walking and then not
Yes.
calling you? Um, I would say I get really interested in a specific topic
Uh-huh.
extremely. I think it says something about me that potentially is undiagnosed. I get
Because you
very
fixate
obsessed,
on
and then
something. Okay.
I move on to something else.
Yeah.
Right now, I recently acquired a 3D printer. So right now I'm very
Oh.
interested in all the things I could potentially print and do and all these other things, figuring out stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of like an engineering effort. Temperaments, sway, all these things. If you're
Mm-hmm.
into 3D printing and you're watching this, please post something in the channel that I can look at or in the chat because I'd love to know people's ideas and stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into it. But to that point, I get very obsessed with the topic, which I think is one of the ones that we kind of aligned on, because we don't always align on these topics, was baking sourdough,
Yes.
fermentation.
Yes. It was very interesting. And I think we talked about this on a previous episode too, where like I had mentioned to you that, oh, yeah, like I want to do my own sourdough starter, or I started doing it, but it's taking forever to like ferment. And then you went off on this I don't even remember how long, but you were going on about like this is the scientific reason for fermentation and what actually happens and why you need to have sugar and not
Hmm.
salt, or maybe I don't even
Salt, not
remember what you
sugar.
said.
Salt
Or
and not
yes.
sugar.
Um and
How dare you?
so and like I'm not going to lie, like I know a lot of it didn't really stick in my head, but your passion definitely stuck with me because it actually told me, because I'm in altitude, right? It's different baking at altitude
Hmm.
than it is at sea level. And so understanding the fundamentals of fermentation was kind of important to then understand how to adjust it at altitude. And so,
Yeah, and you got into that baking for a while too, along with me, and that was a pandemic hobby. I think you still do it though, more than I do.
yeah. No, it's been really difficult. Basically, my neighbor, who is like an expert baker, I've come to find out, um, she's like, yeah, the stoves that come with the house are just not that great. They leak too much heat, so you don't have like precise precision on the
Hmm.
heat in within your oven, which you need to have precise fermentation and rise of the bread, and then you want it to crust at the right time, and then yeah, timing is everything in baking. And so timing and heat, it was very very enlightening to learn. So I have kind of put that on hold for now, because I think I just got tired of having good tasting bread that was just either too dense or like it just didn't rise enough. Like
Hmm.
the flavor in the crust was there, the flavor in like just the crumb was just too tight, and it was just ah disappointing. Disappointing every single time. But I was like, okay, I need to get a new stove, but I'm not quite there yet to invest in a, really
Hmm.
expensive stove. So,
If we ever found a sponsor, it'd be cool to get a sponsor like a stove sponsor. Like,
oh,
wouldn't
like
that
our
be
Dutch
great?
oven too?
Yeah, or like I recently bought a like one of those convection ovens, and it would be cool
Ah,
if you're a convection oven creator like Breville, sponsor us so we can get a free oven. That would be great. I would like their pizza oven if possible. That looks really cool.
yes. Yes.
Yes.
I still follow. So during the time where I was getting into baking sourdough bread, there were all these different like bakers that I started following. And then they started to diversify into like pizza dough, or like doing
Hmm.
croissants, or doing like pies and tarts and stuff.
Hmm.
Like it's diversified a lot now. So
Hmm.
yeah,
I think to kind of bring things back though, because I think we went in a
Mm.
full circle now. I like
Yes.
hobbies where it's low stakes.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's like, oh, this is completely unrelated to things I do. But then I will try to relate them to my day to day, like, oh, I solved this problem this way. This kind of reminds me of this.
Mhm.
And I know I have a tendency to do that with you in conversation where I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of like this. We have to be patient, Ashley. We have to wait. Patience, patience. And that was always your response.
Yes, the eye roll.
The
I don't
eye
want to be
roll.
patient. Yes. Um, I will say one of my newer hobbies is I guess you could put this into self reflection, but I've been going down the rabbit hole of Clifton strengths on the back of our conversation with Michael Roberts last time.
Hmm.
And um, I thought it was just very enlightening. They've since I took the test back in 2020, and I felt like their resources to like kind of dig in and understand. It was like serviceable, but it didn't like give a whole lot of room for in-depth like learning and how does this actually apply to how do I interact with my team and how if I want to build a team, how does that impact my management style? Should I go down that route?
Hmm.
Um, and so I've been going down that train again. They have a lot more resources now on their website. And so I'm curious, Tony, if you've taken the test and what your results were.
So I did take the test. Um,
Haha.
and funny enough, uh, for those
You
of
did
you
not
who
want
are
to take it?
listening, I did not want to take it. Um, I called up Ashley. I was in my car. This was probably 4 or 5 p.m. in the afternoon. I think it was after 5. And I'm like, I don't want to take this test. I don't think it matters. Yada, yada, yada. And I start going through all these things. And I'm like, what do these tests even matter? They're just made by people who
They're
think they
hokey.
know these things, and like, what is
Mhm.
there? There's no scientific evidence behind this. This is subjective. There's nothing
Is it
objective
really
about
research
this or
backed?
measurable. Yeah, and I go on this whole tirade for, I would say, about 10 minutes. um I talk about Dune somewhere in there, which is, I'm off the hook when I start talking about Dune. And
I don't even remember how you connected back to Dune,
yeah,
if I'm being
yeah,
honest
I
with
don't
you.
know either. But then you said something to me, and it
Mm.
and it was like, okay, I'll take it. Um, which I'll mention here. I did buy the book, the Strengths Finder book thing that I acquired. This is a unsponsored review. If Strength Finders, Gallup, Don Clifton, if you want
Show
to
us.
sponsor us, sponsor us, please. And like, that would be really
Which one did you get?
cool.
Because they have a lot of books.
I got the smallest, cheapest one. I got the one that
The
says
$20 one?
2. Yeah, I got the
Ah,
$20
Strengths
one.
Finders 2.0. Okay.
Yeah, because it said it had the test with it. That was my basis. I have not read it. I have not looked in it. The
It's
only thing
okay.
I've done was I took a pair of scissors and cut open the back slit so that I could read the code from the thing and then sign up and take the test.
Good
And
job.
I don't know,
I'm
like
so proud
35
of you.
minutes later, I was done,
Uh
and
huh.
I got a PDF, and I didn't look at it until today when we were going to talk about it.
Perfect. Okay. So, for those of you on the line who do not know what Clifton Strengths Finders is, um, they basically do this test, and they're all about people and teams and leaders leaning into their strengths instead of trying to round out their weaknesses. Is there room to round out weaknesses? Yes, and to work on it. But for your leadership to really take off, they're all about leaning into your strengths. And so the 34 different strengths that they have come up with are sit in four different groups. And so the four different groups are bucketed with strategic thinking, relationship building, influencing, and executing. And so on our last episode of Michael Roberts, he was very keen on saying that his number one strength was competition. And that's actually what got him into cybersecurity because he was all about, on the offensive side and then also on the defensive side, competing with the attackers. He also said he was maximizer and arranger. So I think, two out of the top three are in influencing, which is very cool. Mine, on the other hand, are pretty much all relationship building. So my top five are empathy, connectedness, developer, relator, and then my fifth one is belief. And so I'm curious, Tony, where your strengths are.
Well, funny enough, I have 3 in strategic thinking, 1 in relationship building, and 1 in executing. I am not influential. I will say that I was when I started reading through these, I have no idea what they meant. I'm pretty sure when I was reading them off to you a little earlier ago, I pronounced one of them wrong. Ideation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have context, analytical, restorative, and individualization. All of these are words that have no meaning to me. I kid, of course.
But if we dig into it, whoops. Let's see. Let's take ideation for example,
Mhm.
because that's your number one, right?
That was my number one.
So on their website, they have a little video here to tell you what it is, how do they define it, and then like all this stuff. And then what I have found really interesting are these additional like links here. So they've done like different webinar series and they basically broke it out by each strength.
Hmm.
So like if you're interested in understanding how your strength is how it affects working with team members and your management style. Like they have stuff in there if you want to lean into it more, or how does this manifest in your leadership style? Like how does it play with other strengths? Um, all of these videos I think are just super interesting to kind of just dig into, reflect on, and then see, just observe how it manifests itself in your everyday. You are
Hmm.
a natural fit with research and development. Did you know that?
It doesn't surprise me, but yeah, I'm
Well,
not
I mean,
all
I
that
think that's the whole
surprised by
point.
this one. I will say that so its description is you are especially talented and are fascinated by ideas. And then there's like the one thing I found really funny. We talked about this was connections between seemingly disparate phenomenon was one of the things I'm able to find, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds right up my alley. That is
Yes.
that is
I
definitely a big
believe
part.
in one of our conversations, we were talking about, were we going down the same rabbit hole of like baking? And then somehow the platypus came up. Oh,
I'm
and then
pretty
we were
sure.
talking about like mammals and marsupials and different
Yeah,
animals.
I think we were talking about what's the difference. Why is a platypus a mammal or not a mammal? And I was like calling you because Tang is the guy who knows these
My
questions.
husband.
And then
Hmm.
we were talking about like classification of things and what classifies things. And there's things that look like one thing, but like the general public understands them as this versus that. And how do we understand that? And I think that was like kind of the rabbit hole we were going down. Um,
Yes. And these ideas are indeed profound and novel and interesting because they are just so random. But they seem connected that I could follow your
mhm.
thinking through all of it. So,
I'm surprised. I am surprised you could follow it. I still have no clue what I was thinking, but
I
I'm fine with
mean,
that.
I was entertained. First and foremost, entertained.
Hmm.
Because then immediately as you said platypus, I was like, "Where's Perry?" Um, because like that's the thing that just pops in my head. So yeah. Um, what were
I
your
do
other
think
ones? Oh,
I just
context.
think that yeah, to some degree, yeah. The next one I have is like oh I just scrolled through the thing context
Mhm.
and theme is enjoying and thinking about the past, understanding present by researching its history. That that sounds like stuff I would do. Um,
Context matters.
yeah, analytical, uh, looking for reason and causes, looking for factors that might affect the situation. Yeah, I'd say I do that. Restorative, figuring out what's wrong and resolving it. Yeah, and then individualization. Um, uh, have the gift of figuring out how people who are different can work together productively. Um, okay. I want a Gallup poll Pokemon card for me. That's how I feel when I read this stuff. I feel like there needs to
Well,
be.
okay. Let's take a step back. I'm going to share my screen again because I think it's important to understand the four different domains that they're talking through. So you, 3 out of your top 5 are in the strategic thinking domain. And basically, it just talks about how you absorb, you think about and analyze information in situations to make
Mhm.
decisions, right? Whereas my top ones is how I'm more focused and stronger in this area where it's how do you build and nurture strong relationships, which I think has become a lot more apparent over the last few years, just in terms of like team structure and like new team members coming on board, and then like going through times of uncertainty or chaos. Pandemic
Mhm.
is a perfect example of one, right? Is being able to connect with team members when something suddenly changes so quickly, right? Um, the other one, so influencing is how do you influence others? I would say like the relationship building ones have some level of influencing, but that's just my opinion. I obviously have not gone into
Mhm.
digging into any of the influencing domain because that's not any of my strengths. And then executing. How do you make things happen? And I think you said your executing one was restorative. So,
Restorative.
what
Yes.
does that mean?
It said, hold on, I'm looking it up again. Figuring out what is wrong and resolving it. You are adept at dealing with problems. Yeah. Okay.
You're a problem solver.
hmm hmm
Which
I
is
still
why I
want my
think actually
Pokemon
your
card.
customers love you so much is because you help them figure out, troubleshoot, and get to an
hmm
answer to get them functioning again, right? When
Yeah.
things maybe aren't working as smoothly as they would expect it to. So,
Eh,
yes.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I
Just
still want a like a booklet Pokemon style where you have the
the
thing
34
and it
different
tells you
ones.
like and I'm yep and it tells me all my strengths and my weakness is fire.
And how many
Um
health points you have.
yes. What's my
Okay.
HP? What are my main attacks? What's my mana or energy? I need to know.
Okay. I think I'm gonna look and see if somebody's already created this. I have to believe this is not. We are not
Mhm.
like thinking of something brand new here. So
Yes.
I'll stay tuned. We'll let you know the next one.
Mhm.
Um, are you gonna read the book?
I thought about it, um, and I'm not feeling it right now. I may read it. If somebody
Yeah.
can give me a really good reason why you have to read it, Tony, it's just going to change your life. Um, and it has to be somebody who I really trust and believe. Then I might go out and read it. And I think I know where you're
Okay.
going with this because we
Yes.
wanted to talk about like
Books.
those
Business books.
books,
Yes.
business books, nonfiction, which I'm kind of like on. Um,
It's okay. I've got a book club to handle the fictional fantasy stuff that I
mhm.
normally read. But for today, we're talking through business books in particular that we've read and we recommend or are on our to be read. And I will be honest with you, the book that I bought from Gallup that had my code so that I could take the test was called It's the Manager. It was recommended by one of my mentor friends, Jenny Bauer. And it was in a time where I was like exploring, do I want to move up and out of being an individual contributor and actually managing a team? I don't know how I feel
Mhm.
about that. And so she recommended the book. And to be honest, I've had it for 2 years now, and it's been, like, a slow, like, working my way through it, which
Mhm.
makes sense because she's like, "Yeah, you're gonna read through it, and only certain parts will be applicable to, like, where you're at in your career today and what you're focusing on, and which is how it's structured." So, um so for those of you out there who are interested in figuring out strengths-based leadership, um, it's The Manager by Gallup, or you can take the Clifton Strengths test, and or you can buy the strength-based Strengths Finders 2.0 is what you have, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Very cool.
I wish
Mine's
we
on my
had an
Kindle, otherwise I
Amazon
would show it.
affiliation code. We need. I wish we had. This would be a great moment for that. But no, if somebody is in the Chicagoland area and is interested in reading that book, I will lend you my copy of the 2.0 version. You just won't be able to use the code. Um,
Yes.
there you have
Mark
it.
it up for him. Highlight all the things that you think he would think is important, and then that
You don't
way
have
it's
to do
easier for him
that.
to work through.
I'm an adult. I can do that myself. No, I'm
Okay.
just kidding.
But you just said that you weren't gonna read it.
I might, but
Okay.
not now. So if
Okay,
somebody
okay.
wants to borrow it, they can borrow it.
Okay.
Again, this is why we're not sponsors of the Clifton Strengths Finders.
Okay,
Um,
so let's take a look at books that we have read and would
yes.
recommend.
You've read a lot more of these business books than I have, and you already listed one of them, but I know there's one that we have a lot of overlap on
Yes.
because a few of our friends from our former life,
Mm-hmm.
Adam Schaefer and
Mm-hmm.
Court Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
recommended. what I think is my really the only business book that I will go back and listen to. I listen to it on Audible. Highly recommend um, listening to things on a thing, especially if you want to go on walks and not have to carry a book with you and just listen to them. Never Split the Difference. I will tell you that it is my favorite nonfiction book with business blah blah, because to me it makes a ton of sense. It has a really cool emphasis on problem solving that matters in a way that does matter. Before you dig into it, if you're somebody who is going to pick this up and think like, oh, like negotiation, like, oh, like negotiation, like crushing people or making them like, winning them, it isn't like that. That's
Bend to your will.
Yeah, it's not like that. Like, I've never read any of those books. I'm never going to read those books. I've only read Never Split the Difference because it tells real life things in ways that they matter. Chris Voss is a hostage was a hostage negotiator.
Mm.
Brilliant. He talks about his mistakes. He talks about his successes. He talks about training other people to be that, and he explains what's important. I highly recommend it. If you are Adam Schaefer or Corey Thomas listening to this, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for recommending it to me. You both put me in the right way of going. And if anybody listening to this knows me, um, I will lend you my copy. I will. I've lent other people, friends of mine, my copy, and it has helped them out in seemingly random things that are extremely broad in terms of being personal and being simple. And it is a great book to just listen to.
Yep. I I mean, as you can tell, Tony loves this book. And I will say this book was the book I needed to read to shift my mindset on negotiating, because I always felt it was like, how do I feel like negotiating is very manipulative, and it's very much like trying to get your way in a slimy way.
Hmm.
But it's not that at all. It's very much you're both trying, how do you get to a win-win situation, right, between two parties? And he has different techniques in there on how to suss out and understand what the true thing that the other party really wants, because as we all know, um, it can be hard to be vulnerable, and it's hard to pinpoint sometimes what actually motivates or is driving somebody to an action. And
Hmm.
so this will help you not only it helped me in like a business sense for like negotiating and advocating for myself, because I think, and I'm still continuing to learn it. I have another resource in my head for that, but the it also helps on a personal front. Business is relational, right? It's people, and the skills in Never Split the Difference can really impact your own relationships with like your partner or your kids or your parents or your friends, right? um there's just a lot of different areas to practice the techniques that he has in there, and it's not slimy techniques at all. You're
No,
not going to feel like a used car salesman. It's definitely from a genuine place of trying to understand what the other party wants and then how you can align together. So
I would describe it as a book on how to listen.
hmm
That's it.
mm-hmm. Succinctly said. Hey, Tyler Peterson in the back. Make sure to note that as a clip that we could probably use for futures. All right. Another book. So actually, it's not a book, but it's a site that, or I guess maybe it was a talk. It was shared in like our one of our channels. So I'm in at Jupiter One. We have a ladies channel to help us all kind of like rally together, support each other, and whatnot. And if you don't know, March 8th is International Women's Day, and so one of the resources that was shared in that channel was this talk about being glue and how to be glue in a way, or how it helps or hurts in terms of getting promoted as a woman. Um, and it was very interesting to just go through the entire blog piece and resonate with, like, if you're spending a lot of time chatting with your teammates, trying to
Mhm.
understand like where the gaps are, how they're feeling and get them on board, right? Or trying to put the right people in the room so that you can focus on the right things and have the right conversations. Like there's a lot of being glue that some of you might also be doing at this time. And it was interesting because I got to review it again, but the main takeaway that I got today was if you spend too much time being glue and not doing your job, like the technical parts of your job or like the regular expectations, like you're not going to get promoted that way. And so you've got to be able to either have a healthy balance or if it's part of your role. So like if you're a manager or a team leader or something like that, like it makes sense to be the glue because you are directing and managing, right? Um, but if you just naturally have those skills, so like for me, because connectedness is one of my strengths, being a relator is one of my strengths. Being a developer is one of my strengths. And all those mean different things. But connectedness means like connecting with other people, making sure we're everything. There's connections between past, present, future, connections between people that I point out. As a developer, it's very much looking at people and trying to bring them up to their best potential. Being a relator is just building really strong relationships in a core group. And if I basically I took from that was if I spend too much time tending to all of that and not doing my job, it's not going to serve me in the long run. So, finding ways to be able to put yourself in a strong position to get promoted does not mean it doesn't mean don't be glue, just be aware of how much time you're spending on being glue. So,
Hmm.
because we need glue in all different parts of our organization, right? What would you
Interesting.
think?
What's this book?
It's
The
not
name of it?
actually a book, it's a website or a
A
blog.
website, a
It
blog.
based on a video. I guess I think it was a presentation from a female engineer from Squarespace,
Hmm.
um, who gave this presentation, turned it into like a blog, and I had to like sit through and absorb it because it's a very long blog. Um,
Hmm.
but I'll share it with you. It's very interesting to just
Yeah, I want to read this.
from that perspective. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, and you got me thinking about things in my
mm.
past, and there are probably other things that have influenced my thoughts, have influenced my processes. I'm not going to talk about Dune, but there. But to be honest, like I think it's hard. In my mind, I think if like you're in like similar journey as me, you kind of scoff at the business book idea or all these other things. And because right now I am like I totally will scoff at like a business book, like whatever. Like hand me, like I got the the O'Reilly guide on blah 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 that has the pigeon on it and whatever. And you know there are a ton of books like
It's not an
that, but it
elephant.
is I don't know, but there's always a different animal. I want the one with the English bulldog on it.
Okay.
Whatever that might be. Um,
Hmm.
but there is value to these books. Like I think there's something like it's interesting to hear people's thought processes on these topics. I think it's really interesting, and I would never want to read them. I still think looking at them from like an audiobook perspective, way easier to
Yeah, I
consume.
gotta. Yeah, I think I probably need to consider that because on my to be read list I think it's called Thanks for the Feedback. And it's
Hmm.
basically a book about like how to give and receive feedback better, like in a healthy way, essentially. And it's like I started it, but I just could not continue reading it because I like my fantasy books.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
so okay, Audible, I will give that a shot and
That
let you
is my
know.
tip. But at the same time,
Awesome.
um, will I read Clifton Strength Finders? Maybe.
One day.
Let's find out. One day.
At least now you have a starting point for understanding your strengths. You can use their website. They have plenty of free resources to dig into it. And it's a continuous exploration, right?
Yeah, I
Becoming
don't
more
want to
self
take any
aware.
more tests though.
No, it's okay. You don't have to take any more tests. I mean,
No more
like
tests.
if
We'll
you
find
really want to
tests.
know the stack ranked of all 34, I think it's like $60. I don't know if it's worth that because I mean, I'm
Sponsor us,
ruining our
Clifton Strength
chances.
Finders, and I will take the test that is more expensive.
Yes. Awesome. All right. I think that pretty much wraps what we wanted to chat about today, right? Was there anything else that we wanted to cover?
No, I don't think that. I
Okay.
think that was everything.
Awesome.
I will say, um, Ashley has one more secret hobby that she didn't mention. It's karaoke. That's the last thing I
Yes.
will leave on the note. So if you're watching this to the end, you'll know that that is something that Ashley's into. And you should always watch till the end of our show because I'll
Yes.
reveal secrets about Ashley.
Fantastic. All right, folks. Just letting you know, our next episode is going to be on March 15th. We have the pleasure of having Radhika Rastogi. She is the senior manager of product security over at Capital One. And we get to dig into her background and how she got to the position that she is now, some of her hobbies around mentoring and passions there. So definitely tune in to our next episode again on March 15th. It'll be 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So, wherever you are in the world, if you want to grab a snack, grab a drink, whatever suit floats your boat, tune in, have a grand conversation with us. And you can never be too early because guess what's next month? April. It's RSA. We will be at RSA. It is the last week of the month, and we are planning to have a grand time out there in San Francisco as well. So just want to let you all know if you're headed to San Francisco, let us know. We'd love to see you, meet you. I'm planning to do a special, so if you want to get on camera too, let me know. Dinners galore, etc. We'd love to see you. So,
Hey, one more thing. Our
hmm.
next show, we're going to be together live in person.
Oh my gosh. Excuse me.
Gesundheit. Bless you.
Thanks.
Salud.
Uh, yes, Tyler Peterson, guy in the back, just letting you know that Tony and I will be in the same space for streaming cyber therapy. So that should be
There you go.
interesting. I got to figure out a room and whatnot to get there. So we'll figure it out. But anyways, it should be fun. Then you'll really get to see our dynamic in person. Right now, you're only seeing like the surface level on camera. So, anyways,
Ashley's actually way taller than me.
no, that's definitely not true. I am the average height of a woman, 5'4". You are definitely taller. And I'm not gonna go down the route. You know the meme of like, the kid who's trying to like punch and then the other person's just holding them back with their hand. That is how I feel. I am the kid trying to reach and just can't get there.
I don't think that's our
Anyways,
dynamic, but
no, but it
okay.
has definitely happened. So,
It has.
anyways. All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in all the way to the end here. Super appreciate it. Again, feel free to share this podcast with everybody that you know who would find it interesting, entertaining. If you've got people who would be interested in joining us, definitely email me at cybertherapy@jupiter1.com. Always happy to meet new people, have new guests on here who want to talk about how to communicate better, how to have better teamwork as a security professional, and partnering with people outside of the security org. So, with that, I will see you again on March 15th. See you then.